White Messa Mill, we're currently feeding uranium ores into the mill. We did a rare earth run earlier this year. We've stopped processing rare earths and now we're processing uranium. And so that is well advanced, and we plan to keep that mill running as long as we can with whatever feed we can secure for the mill. We have 3 uranium mines operating right now. The Pinyon Plain mine in Arizona, the LaSalle mine in Utah, and the Pandora mine in Utah.
Welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Some of you know me as Triangle Investor from social medias. Today's guest is Mark Chalmers, Chief Executive Officer for Energy Fuels, Inc. Mark, welcome back to my show. It is always great to have you.
It's great to be back.
Thanks, Mark. Let's start with the question that is often asked about your company. And I got to say that you did address that a few times before, but I would like to hear it now, today. And that is a question of the company's strategy and objectives going forward as a multi-asset and a multi-mineral company. What's the plan?
What the plan is to build a critical mineral company of world significance. And that's what we're doing. It's that simple. And we have a unique story. It's a different story than the uranium onlys and the rare earth onlys. It's our story, and I'm very proud about that. And I think we're making extraordinary progress on many fronts on how we're executing because of our unique capabilities, our expertise, our infrastructure, and our ability to deal with mildly radioactive materials that we can process into final products.
So uranium is a core asset. Uranium is your focus.
Oh, yeah, look, uranium will always be our core asset and a core focus. I mean, I've been in the uranium business for 48 years. I started in 1976, and many of our assets I've been very involved with from back in the 70s. And we're still going to produce uranium without a doubt. We've been the largest producer of uranium for the last 6-7 years. And over the last 15 years, we've been the second largest uranium producer after Cameco's assets in the United States. So we know how to produce uranium. I produce uranium all over the world. We'll continue to do so.
Okay. Can you give me an update on your U.S. uranium production assets? And we can do that by starting with the White Messa Mill. What is going on over there?
Yeah, well, the White Messa Mill, we're currently feeding uranium ores into the mill. We did a rare earth run earlier this year. We've stopped processing rare earths and now we're processing uranium. And so that is well advanced, and we plan to keep that mill running as long as we can with whatever feed we can secure for the mill. We have 3 uranium mines operating right now, the Pinyon Plain mine in Arizona, the LaSalle mine in Utah, and the Pandora mine in Utah. And we have 2 other mines we're getting ready for production, which is the Whirlwind mine in Colorado and the Nichols Ranch ISR mine in Wyoming. So we have 3 mines operating. We're working to expand that to 5 mines, and we're also advancing our rare earth strategy.
Okay, I will ask you more about those assets a little bit later. I have a few more questions about White Messa. How many pounds of uranium do you expect to process at White Messa during each of the following years, 2024, 2025, and 2026?
Yeah, well, we're just getting the mill restarted on uranium run. We've given guidance between 150 to 500,000 pounds for 2024. We plan to ramp that up by the end of the year. We'll be at a mine rate of between about 1.1 million to 1.4 million pounds at that rate at the end of the year. And then we have a goal of ramping that up over the next year or two later to 2 million pounds of uranium per year. And on top of that, looking out even a few more years, we have 3 other uranium assets that can get us up to 5 million pounds per year in due course. So it'll be a few 100,000 pounds this year, ramping up to 1.5 million or 1.5 million next year, and then up to 2 million pounds plus over a few years, and then up to 5.
Okay, because that was one of my questions, assuming the demand is here. Is there a realistic roadmap to get White Messa Mill at processing 4 millions, 5 millions, or even more?
We have the assets to do that. Now, some of those assets still need to get their permits. Of those 3 assets, one of them is fully permitted, but the Roca Honda project in New Mexico, we're doing the final EIS on that. And then we got a project called Bulfrog in Utah that we're just in the early stages. So yeah, we do have multiple assets, and a lot of times people will only have a one mine asset, and we've got a real stable full of assets that can come in at different times and levels and quantities.
Yeah, you previously stated you would issue an ore buying schedule in early 2024, describing the terms under which the company is prepared to buy uranium and uranium vanadium ore from third-party miners in the vicinity of White Messa, which is expected to contribute to the company's production. How is this going? Did you issue the ore buying schedule, and did you enter any agreement with third-party miners?
We haven't entered in any agreement yet, and we're doing a little differently than historically, because there's really so few mines that can actually produce uranium to provide to White Messa Mill currently. So we basically told the world that people that have mines that can produce uranium right now, come talk to us, and we'll come up with sort of a custom negotiated contract for a specific mine or mines, going forward. And so we are talking to other parties right now about buying uranium ore. We're the only ones that can buy uranium ore in the United States. So there's only one place to go, but we're trying to find deals that make sense for us and make sense for those that will sell us uranium ores. Now, when we process those uranium ores, the uranium that's contained in those ores is ours. So it's not that we're toll treating that material. Now, we do have a toll milling agreement with ISO Energy, where it is a toll treatment type arrangement. We're not planning to do that with anybody else, but yeah, we're actively looking for purchasing uranium ores for those that can do so, with all their licenses in place, and all the legal requirements required to do that.
You mentioned ISO Energy. ISO Energy announced that it will acquire Enfield Energy, and Enfield Energy has a mill in the portfolio. Would you consider amending the toll milling agreement with ISO to enable the sourcing of the ore from the geographically proximate Enfield mines?
We'll consider anything that makes sense. Okay. Right now, our mill is up, running, in good shape, fully licensed, got all the tailings facilities, got the people, expertise, the laboratories, the shops, everything, and the vanadium circuit. So, I mean, ISO has acquired the Shooting Canyon mill that hasn't ran for 45 years or something, and they've got a lot of work to do on that. But yeah, we have a close relationship with ISO. We'll just see where it rolls out over time.
Okay. I remember our first interview, and I asked you the question of the replacement cost of White Messa Mill. If you would go and build a new facility like White Messa today, and it has been like 2 years from our first interview or something like that. So I would like to hear, at today's prices, inflation, how much would it cost to build this world-class facility you have, White Messa Mill, from scratch?
Yeah, I don't know what number I gave you last time we interviewed, but I'd say about $500 million or something. That would be my guess. to build it if you had the permits. You have to have the permits first. So I'm just going to throw out that number about 500 million. But to get the permits, to get the tailings facilities in place and all that, you'd be looking at 10 years plus, I'm assuming, to get things permitted and constructed at the very least. So yeah, it's a material investment. So we're glad that we have it and it's fully paid for, zero debt. And like you said, operating right now as we speak.
Let's touch on Nichols Ranch, Pinyon Plain, and LaSalle. Can you give me an update? What are you currently doing over there, and what are the next steps?
Well, Nichols Ranch, we're back drilling in the well field, production area 2, and we're doing the drilling to start laying out new well fields for a restart. And we also planning to do some exploration drilling in the around the vicinity of Nichols Ranch at Pinyon Plain. We've developing the mine. It's the highest grade uranium mine in the history of the United States, to the best of my knowledge. We're doing the level development. We've got a drill rig underground doing exploration drilling in what we call the Juniper Zone. And we're working through an agreement with Navajo Nation on ore transport. Even though we have no legal requirement to do that, we're working in good faith with the Navajo Nation. We're making very good progress on that because there's a fear factor. They don't understand that we've transported across the reservation for decades without incident. And we're trying to make them comfortable that we're doing everything to keep the Navajo Nation and others safe, and it was safe to begin with, but we're looking at some other measures that make them more comfortable. So again, we very excited about that project, and we've got about 35 people there right now working and doing the level development, exploration, drilling. And getting this, we're working out some of these issues with the Navajo Nation, but we feel very confident that that's not going to be a long-term issue. So when you move over to LaSalle, LaSalle is a underground uranium vanadium mine, and we've got I don't think about 15, 20 employees working there, and we've got a mining uranium vanadium ores, and we've got a contract mine next door called Pandora, and there's 15 or 20 people there mining uranium vanadium ores. And so all that is being mined and shipped to the mill right now. We've got around 1 million pounds of uranium either in inventory or yet to be processed at the mill. So we've got material of revenue sitting there in different forms, processed or not yet to be processed, about 1 million pounds. And then we're getting the Whirlwind project ready to go back into production as well. And it's a uranium vanadium mine in Colorado. So if people think we're not in the uranium business or we're getting out of the uranium business, they ought to stop by some of our operations and they'll see just how little we're doing. We're not doing little, we're doing a lot.
Okay, what about development pipeline? You mentioned the Roca Honda Sheep Mountain.
Yeah. Sheep Mountain is fully permitted. It happens to be next to the Sweetwater Mill that UEC purchased, and it's a very large open pit underground resource, fully permitted. Okay, sitting there. So we have that, and that has the capability of probably between 1.5 to 2 million pounds per year on its own. We've got the Roca Honda project, which is we're doing the EIS, and it's a very large project, probably has the potential of a couple million pounds per year for a decade or two, couple decades. That's being advanced. And then we have the Bulfrog project, which is being advanced. It's kind of early stages, but it's a very good deposit, not too far from the Tonian mine that ISO Energy has.
With regards to Ship Mountain, the 2022 PFS had an all-in sustaining cost for an underground section near $50, if I'm not mistaken. Are you considering developing only the Conga pit, or you will wait for higher prices to justify development of both open pit and underground sections?
Yeah, look, the lowest hanging fruit in the early days is a Congo pit, and so yeah, I mean, step by step. It depends on what the market is at the time, but it is fully permitted. It's ready to go. So yeah, so step at a time. It depends where the uranium prices go. It depends what the contract portfolios we put in place or we don't put in place. So yeah, just watch it unfold, because we are absolutely going to be U.S. material as a uranium producer going forward for decades.
Let's move to another continent. I would like to hear an update on Base Resources assets, Kwale and Toliara. In what stage is Toliara mine permitting now, and how long will it take to solve these matters?
Yeah, well, we're working with the Madagascar government to get it out of suspension, and we believe that we will get it out of suspension. We don't have an exact date yet. A very significant project, very significant, world class, not appreciated in the stock in terms of the value. We get that thing out of suspension and start development, and it is a company changer. I mean, not many companies can say they have a world-class asset or will have a world-class asset. We get this thing released, and that'll be a complete re-rate for the stock, I believe. Now, that may be a forward-looking statement, but we see it as, we're very excited about that. So yeah, we're working with the Madagascar government, or Base is working with us, with the Madagascar government. There is a significant urgency in Madagascar for more economic development in the country. It's very poor. So yeah, we'll just keep everybody apprised on how that is advancing. Meanwhile, the Kwale project in Kenya is winding down by the end of this year and in reclamation, and that is supposedly largely complete by the middle of next year, the reclamation. But what we have with Toliara is we have a complete team at Base to develop the Toliara project, including a number of skilled people, both from Kenya and Madagascar, to be available to advance that project when we get it released from suspension. So we have absolute project team, great project team, ready to go forward with the Toliara project, and at the same time helping us with the Bahia project in Brazil and the joint venture at Donald in Victoria, Australia. So this is the exciting part about our story. We are playing a long game for a big gain for our shareholders. And I couldn't be any more excited than I am right now. Some people have criticized me for the plan, but that's okay. People can criticize me. We know what we're doing. We know how we're driving our bus, and watch this space. So I think it's going to be very exciting next 6 months to a year for the company, and really showing how you go for long-term profitability and world significant company with low cost.
Have another question for Toliara. PFS is coming out soon, I presume, after you resolve these issues. Do you have approximate timing on that matter?
The PFS, well, there's been a DFS on the heavy mineral sands alone. They did a PFS on the addition of monazite values. We're still working through some of the compliance documents, how we put all this stuff together. But what was interesting is the DFS and the PFS done on the heavy mineral sand and the rare earths indicated that the project had an EBITDA of about $370 million per year for 38 years. Okay. And, that is pretty material if you get that project to move forward. And it effectively would provide monazite to the White Mesa Mill for free. And that is why we're so excited about what this does for the long term for the company. So yeah, we still have some of these documents to finalize. The Toliara project, if we get the suspension lifted, we'll go immediately into an FID process to get the final investment decision. The economics are robust, and we've got to just come through updated capital and operating costs, which I have little doubt won't pass an FID, process.
Mark, you have 4 long-term contracts with U.S. utilities to date. Are there any discussions for signing new offtakes? And actually, are the offtakers knocking on your door more often than, let's say, 1 year ago?
Yeah, I think they are knocking on our door. And we're looking at how to build our book in a responsible way. I mean, if we're at 2 million pounds of production, we've committed about a third of our production under long-term contract. If we're at about 1.5 million pounds of production, it's about 50% is committed under long-term contract. So we really have left ourselves open for material opportunities for either new contracts or selling on the spot market. The problem with the spot market is you can only sell so much uranium without pushing the price down. So, it's really a balance there. Some people think they're going to sell everything they have on the spot market. Well, if they do that, you're probably going to have a low spot price. So it's that balance, but we're basically a third to maybe up to 50% contracted right now. And we'll see where we go.
If I remember correctly, in your presentation was stated that you sold some of uranium at $94, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, on the spot. I think we sold a couple 100,000 pounds around $94 a pound. What are we at now? Below 80 again.
Yeah.
And we'll always be opportunistically looking at what we sell on the spot market. So, I mean, under long-term contract, I think we sold 200,000 pounds early this year at around $75 a pound under long-term contracts. So when you look at what we sold for the 95, it was about $84, $85 a pound average sales, which if you look at it and you look at others, that's a pretty good blended price compared to what others have been able to achieve, others like Cameco and some of the other producers, emerging producers.
Yeah, you mentioned, like you said, the uranium price today, I believe, is $79, $80, something like that. Would you say this is maybe a good time to buy from the spot markets and have it stored in your?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a good time compared to the past. I think it's got to keep going up. But yeah, I mean, you can buy for so long, but at the same time, if you want to have revenue, you might have to sell some uranium at depending on what you're doing. So, look, I think it needs to go up. I know it needs to go up from a cost of production perspective, and but at the same time, you got to show that you've got revenue. So, there's some trade-offs there. But I think the future looks very bright for the uranium business.
Agreed. Do you see any other opportunities with DOE, Department of Energy?
Yeah, look, there's a number of opportunities emerging in bipartisan support for uranium, critical minerals. I spent well, a few weeks ago, I was in DC and had a number of meetings with government officials. They're certainly watching what we're doing with very keen interest. It's a remarkable story. And at the end of the day, I hope it becomes my legacy on how we've done things and why we've done things. Again, perhaps a forward-looking statement, but yeah, look, it's a busy time. I've been on the road for the last month. I've been home a couple nights in the last month. Been to Australia twice, Europe twice, and DC once in the last month. So I'm looking forward to being home for the next few weeks and continuing on with our strategy.
Believe you that the travels are it's hard to travel that much and not to be at home. I saw your financial filings. Revenues are increasing, but you are not still cash flow positive. In your projections, so when do you expect that to be a cash flow positive? What is the actually your financial plan, revenue plan looking forward
Yeah.
with both rare earths and uranium?
Yeah, look, we're just getting that momentum going. I mean, we to be financial cash positive, you got to sell uranium, and we got to get the units up on how many units that we're selling, both long-term contracts and spot. We have to get up, 1 million pounds plus before we can kind of start tipping that profitability scale, which we're on the way to do. But we also have other expenses with a number of these acquisitions. We've had, a number of, deal costs that were, significant with the advisors, the lawyers, and all that stuff. So, when you look at our company, it depends on which piece you're looking at. If you're looking just the uranium sector, can we be profitable in the uranium sector? Yes. But when you look at all some other costs that come with the acquisition of all these rare earth deposits, there's a cost to doing that. Over the last 18 months, we've been profitable on average, more so than any other uranium company. I mean, we sold the Alta Mesa project and some uranium. We've had around $100 million of net income over the last year and a half, and that was a mixture of the Alta Mesa sale and the sale of uranium and a minor amount of rare earth products. So no one else that I know of has been in that good a financial position. Looking at our balance sheet, looking at the increases in our revenue from uranium as we build up, and the fact that we have zero debt. We have gotten no debt on our restarts. We've done it out of treasury. We don't have converts. We don't have loans. And we have assets that are fully paid for and developed. Most of our assets are fully paid for and developed, and we've got others in the pipeline.
To pick your brain on M&A, we saw the USC transaction, the ISO Energy transaction. Will you join the party soon?
ISO and join the party in terms of production?
No, join the party with M&A to be more active on M&A fronts.
Yeah, we've been looking at things and look, we look at whatever makes sense, and we've looked at M&A. Well, obviously we have in the rare earths, but we've also looked at M&A in the uranium space. But what we do is we make our decisions on what we think makes the most financial sense, and that's how we make our decisions. We're not relegated to have to do a deal in the uranium business. If there's a deal that we think makes more financial sense in the rare earth business, we'll do that deal. If we think a uranium transaction makes more sense, we'll do that deal. So, it gives us a lot of maneuvering room on how to create long-term sustainable value for our shareholders.
Understood. Is there any idea among people in the company, you as a CEO, that you spin out the segments of the company, let's say in a different companies, and you let's say stick with uranium and spin out the rare earth part of the business? Is there any idea of that kind?
Well, it's always possible, and we've discussed it, but we don't have any immediate plans for that. So yeah, step at a time. These things go together perfectly. I mean, right now we share the mill for both uranium processing and rare earth processing. So it's kind of like, that's a center asset for us, and it's not completely dividable right now. So yeah, we'll just see where it goes.
A question mark, Newsflow, what and when can investors expect Newsflow in the next few months?
Yeah. Well, I'm very hopeful for more news flow on the Toliara project and our rare earth projects, the ramp up of our uranium production. I'm quite positive that we'll start shipping ore from the Pinyon Plain mine. I think that we've got really interesting advances on this phase 2 rare earth plant at the White Messa Mill, and we're also advancing our strategy on the isotopes, which is radium 228 and 228, 226 and 228. So I believe over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to have some extraordinary news flow, but I've got to show the market what it is and why it's extraordinary.
Sorry, this is the final question. Your comment on share performance. I mean, not just your company, general uranium share performance so far. Do you believe that we are heading to, since we are entering the tax losing season and the elections, so what do you expect in the terms of share performance next?
Well, I think, and I know that, because we had this diversification strategy that held our shares back over the last 18 months or so. But if you look at our share performance over the last month to 6 months, we've actually outperformed the uraniums quite materially. I mean, the delta is, 20, 30%, 20 to 40% over the last 6 months. We've gone up more and they've gone down more. So my goal is to see that trend continue. Now, again, forward-looking statement, and all driven on the fact we played a long game, not a short game, and we're building value on these multiple fronts. The share price of uranium companies is really going to be driven on the price uranium. It's interesting that a lot of the uraniums have really fell off when the price went from the 106 to $80. Now they're recovering a bit because of additional optimism over AI and data centers and whatnot. But they really took the price uranium came down 25%, and the price of equities came down 50%.
Exactly. That was Mark Chalmers, CEO for Energy Fuels. Mark, thank you for coming to my show. It was a great chat, and I look forward to host you again sometime soon.
Thank you very much. I look forward to our next meeting.